Hello, friends. Welcome to Apodcast.com. I'm Adrian Sinclair, and today I am excited to have James Lyman, the CEO of Mudbots. We're going to be talking about 3D printing. We're going to be talking about the future of building housing and how this new wave of technology is going to be impacting our children and our future. All right, and we're on. Welcome to the show, James. It's good to see you, man.
Thanks for having us.
So I've been trying to get you on the show for some time because I'm so excited about the technology and your company and what you guys do. Mm-hmm. So thank you for being here. I mean, this is going to be a blast. People who will be watching this will get to know what you're doing, why is it important, how things will be changing in the near future, where is this revolution from 3D printing with concrete is going to take us. So thank you for being on the show, and let's just jump right into it. I mean, I want to talk about the technology, and then I want to talk about you a little bit, what motivates you, why are you doing this, and the future, where is this going to take us? So
you bet.
What is 3D printing? What can 3D printing offer us in terms of like 3D printing with concrete?
It offers as a construction there are three factors in concrete printing that drive the market right now. The first for most people is just a third the cost. So when we say a third the cost, we're not saying that we're going to print your carpet and your porcelain and that kind of stuff yet, but
right.
For walls up, all of the trades necessary to get to walls up, including stucco, drywall, taping, and this part, it's a third the cost. Mm-hmm. And that's 100% real. The other is a third the time. Okay, instead of being there in a couple weeks, we're going to be there in 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So those are very, very significant. But I've had several customers tell me if those two weren't even there at all, it would still be the most significant machine to come along in forever because of what it does aesthetically and designs.
Right.
Spiral pilasters, 48-inch radius corners, dome roofs. I mean, the things that just were never before possible are now possible. And that is probably going to be the most significant thing as we go down the road here.
So cost, speed, new structures impossible to build in the past, at least at any cost effectiveness.
Freedom of design.
Yeah.
I mean, architects and engineers, they have in their mind what they would like to do. It's just never cost effective. I mean, most consumers are not going to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. And now they can. And so this is a tool this is a love affair.
Right.
Between engineers and architects and
so
printer.
I'd say it's fair to say that most people out there, your everyday sort of like regular person, knows, at least heard of 3D printing, 3D printers. You know, you can print your little gadgets or whatever you want at home, right? Maybe a little hobby that you have. I mean, here we're talking about printing with concrete and compounds that can make a dwelling, a multi-story house at a third of a cost, at a third of a speed. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is revolutionary. This is going to change. This is going to change the whole planet.
That's what the magazines are saying. I mean, there have been some articles written about it and us, and they're just saying you can kind of forget what you thought you knew about construction. This is going to change everything.
Right.
And it's going to solve a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Such as what?
We have an epidemic problem around the world right now of affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And it's not something America really has concentrated a lot on. You got areas in Africa, you have areas in South America. Ethiopia, different parts of the world where just the living conditions are unfathomable. I mean, unless you've been there and seen it, you just can't even begin to have any compassion for it. But right now we're starting to really have that problem, an epidemic problem. Right. You just Google it.
Yeah.
Affordable housing epidemic problem, and you'll just everywhere. Working with Habitat for Humanity right here in Utah is trying to help solve that, but they've just been so challenged to actually effectually do anything because they can't force contractors to, give quotes below market, and they can't force lumber stores and stuff to sell studs and plumbing for less than market. So, short of some affordable lending instruments and some cheaper property or whatever else, or donated property, politicians have been ineffective. And I mean, even if this has been going on for decades and decades of people getting up and saying we're gonna solve affordable housing, and they just haven't been able to.
So, and it's a problem. And this technology offers a possibility to dramatically change this by automation. Would be the key component of this, where a 3D printer can take away of a lot of the speed, which is time is money, right? So like if you can build a house at in 1/3 of time, that's going to directly affect the labor costs and materials. It's concrete, right? We're printing with concrete, so this is going to really revolutionize why the world and housing. Why is it not here yet?
Well, it's actually very well known in other parts of the world. It's being used in Dubai. I mean, full cities, Denmark, Russia, China. For the most part, America's playing catch up. Now, we weren't the first to start developing the concrete printer. The Germans and Chinese, some of the others had started it before us, but we were first to market, and we took it to World of Concrete last year. It was a little nerve-wracking for us. We're an automation company. We knew we could build the printer and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm still selling to contractors, and so I didn't know if are they going to get it, or I might as well be selling the space shuttle to a contractor. Right. So, but they did. They got it. Their jaw was on the ground. They're mesmerized. They see the benefits and the potential in a myriad of different industries. I mean, not just for homes. I can print barbecues in place. I can print waterfalls without the week-long setup of bending rebar and mesh and gray coat and all this kind of stuff. It's just, it's astounding. All your sewer, all your underground, it can be done. It prints your forms. It can backfill your forms, print your slabs. So there's no framing. It's the real deal. And that is why in other parts of the world, it's going like crazy. Here, they're just, to some degree, our building departments and stuff, they're trying to force concrete printing into a technology that they understand, or an industry that they understand. It's going to be the other way around. Right. Okay, the technology is going to readapt how things are done. And so, in the end, you got a lot better product. It's more accurate. You can't buy 2x4s at Home Depot that are within 4 millimeter of accuracy. Right. They're all banned. You got to sort through hundreds to get to a couple good ones. But the house is more accurate. The drywall guys are going to love it, because when they try and put a sheet of drywall up there on the lid, it's going to fit. So, how did you get into this? I understand that you have an automation company. You were into robotics, right? So this is a sort of a natural fit. But take me to that singular point in past where you were like, you know what? I think we can make a robot that's going to just 3D print a house. I was looking at some new property, and I was talking to a guy that wanted to sell us a piece, and he had a full machine shop, does a lot of Department of Transportation work and stuff. And so I was talking to him about automating several aspects of it, and we got on real well, but towards the very end, after talking for over an hour, he said, "James, have you seen a concrete printer?" And because he said concrete 3D printer. Like, no, they make 3D printers. I mean, we have one. Right. We use it all the time, but they don't do concrete printing. He's like, no, they serious. You got to see this thing. This Russian guy's printing a castle. Right. Yeah, I saw that video on YouTube. And so I are you sure? Concrete? Nevertheless, I looked at the video and I was astounded. I left his place, I drove around the corner, and I bought 50 domains. Concrete printing, house printing, 3D concrete printing, just I bought up 50 domains. We have over 500. But I did so because I saw that I come from construction. I guess that's one of our benefits, is a lot of these other companies, they're engineers. And they're brilliant, okay? But if you don't understand construction, it's real easy to go down a rabbit hole and end up designing something that's just not going to work.
Right.
I mean, and there's a lot of real lively conversations between the guys that are looking at it from a practical sense and a marketing sense, and the engineers that want to do this and that and this and that and everything else. So when I saw it, I knew I could build it. I had no idea how naive I was, though, because I thought we'd throw something together and within a couple months we'd be going. That was 2.5 years ago. So we built the printer in 30 days, but 2.5 years later,
tweaking.
Well, in the end, I'm not printing with PVC or ABS. I'm printing with a medium that changes. And if the sun's too bright or the wind comes out, or, I mean, all these different factors, they affect this medium. I'd love to just order a cement truck and have it show up and just dump this stuff into something and print out a wall. It doesn't work that way. I have to control the slump or the moisture level of the mix through the whole print process. And that's the time to get through our mixer, our pumping system, to get through 100 foot of hose sitting out there baking in the sun. So there's so many other factors that came in. And I remember even when I first looked at it and looked what the Germans and stuff were doing, and I'm thinking, they've been working on this a year? The hell took so long? I mean, come on, guys.
Right.
I mean, any mechatronics can stare at this thing and say, oh yeah, I can build that. But I can tell you our electrical engineers, our mechanical engineers, mechatronics, guys from the 3 universities here, I mean, they spent a hell of a lot more time getting their hands messy and mixing mud and watching something fall over 100 times than they ever did actually the degree that's sitting on the wall.
So the inception of this was, hey, I'm a robotics and automation kind of guy. I also have a background in building and in materials. I can figure this out. This is a worthy challenge. And you also saw that the potential of it, right? You saw like where can this, take us?
I guess that changes a little bit day to day, but strictly from a business point of view, I saw a very marketable product. And so that was one motivating factor. Being the only ones in America actually selling one of these was another big factor. And, our robotics, I have 15 different companies in Japan that I compete with every single day. And so I thought, I'm going to throw some money and time, pick a couple of my guys and say, hey, you see what this Russian's doing? I want a machine that will do that. And that was the beginning genesis of it, but we spent a lot of time really talking about what kind of a machine are we going to build. And we really started trying to pick apart others in the market and what we saw as deal breakers for them. And so...
So what are some of those deal breakers for, let's say I am a construction company and I want to get into this because I see the future of it. I mean, it's very enticing to have a technology that allows you to 3D print a structure at a third of time and third of cost, and possibly structures that were never built before. So now you open up a possibility of all these companies experimenting with new better ways of building housing, right, in the future. So you have a lot of going on for this technology. And for me, as a, let's say, buyer of your printer, there's certain deal breakers, and those are the deal breakers that we're talking about. And so what are some of those?
Well, for us, we saw most of the machines out there couldn't do multi-story in basements. And at least in the United States, basement's a big part of the construction industry. So we knew we had to have a printer that would do that, and most don't. We saw a major deal breaker is everyone else is trying to build a printer, and then they want to sell you the ink every day. Kind of like the Epson model.
Cheap
you buy
printer.
a $30 printer and you pay $50 every other week.
Cartridge,
so nobody likes that. And we knew that was going to be a challenge, especially since all but one person that was in this market, and there's like 9, they are out of the country. They wanted to sell a proprietary mix, ship it in ocean liner containers halfway around the world. We're defeating the number one first reason that this is such a great machine. Speed goes fast. Okay. And so we realized that we weren't going to have a proprietary mix. I wanted to. I'd love to sell you a printer and sell you mix every single week and have it shipped wherever under threat of voiding your warranty, because they are. But for us, we're just like, there came a point where we had to decide, is this all going to be about money, or is this actually going to be about making a difference around the world? When you start playing with different types of mixes, geopolymer and so forth, geopolymer neutralizes sodium. So for the first time ever, I can print in a third world country using beach sand. I can print using the dirt that I excavated for the basement. And so,
that's a huge factor, and the cost. Yeah, it's a huge factor. You excavate a hole for the basement, and you use that as a material for the mix. That's amazing.
I guess one of the other deal breakers is that like I said, at the end of the day, you're selling this to a contractor. You've got construction workers who want to put this thing together.
Right.
And you look at the design of some of these others, and shoot, they're 5,000 pounds. One of our legs weighs 38 pounds. You pick it up. It's stage trussing. It's aluminum. Our whole structure is aluminum. We got 8 screws on ours, not 800. It's not, when you look at the plan of how to assemble this thing, 2 guys do it in 2 hours. It's not the worst IKEA cabinet you've ever seen with millions of bolts and screws and page 14 and all this kind of stuff. And imagine trying to do that and then on site, out in the dirt and the wind and everything else. But then, even to make it worse, imagine having to take that machine apart and put it back together 6 times just to print a structure, because your machine was ideally designed for printing circles. And so you can print a little section here and then move it, take it down.
That all factors, that all costs more money, time.
Well, and then contractors, when they look at our printer, they're like, you got to be kidding me. This is all it is? So we wanted it simple, stupid. We wanted a contractor to be able to look at this printer and say, oh my God, there's nothing to it. I want him to say there's nothing to it. I don't want him to look at it and say, oh, it's phenomenal. I'm dazzled. It's amazing. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But
I don't want to be taking it apart and putting it back together.
I don't want my guys to have to do it. And what happens when you lose a nut or a bolt? There's only eight nuts on our entire printer. So
I'm definitely connecting with your analogy with IKEA. IKEA is great when it was cheaper and everyone's like, all right, I'll assemble it together. But then when you need to move somewhere and you need to take it apart, you're like, oh no, I just rather throw it out.
Just about. Well, and people getting caught up on cosmetics and stuff like that. I mean, under every printer is a structure. Hopefully it's aluminum and not steel. Majority of them are steel. Okay, they can't be assembled without cranes or lifts of some sort, of backhoe, trackhoe. And what some people have done is they built a nice aluminum printer, and then they wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars in molds to put plastic all around it.
Right.
Nobody wants that plastic. As a contractor, I don't want to assemble my printer and then have my guys waste another hour or two putting plastic on it that's going to get broken, that costs a lot of money and so forth. It's hiding what's going on underneath this. Contractors want to look at a printer and say, it makes sense. There's nothing on here that is too difficult. I get it. I understand it. It's simple, stupid.
Right. And
so that's what we built. We didn't build it without a lot of fights. I mean, between our design people and our engineers and stuff. But we got there. So
we'll talk about that. But I see what you're saying when you have these beautiful 3D renderings of machines that look like iPhones. Yeah. And they're great.
Or an Epson printer.
Or Epson printer, right? They look very sexy, very futuristic shapes and everything. And for a consumer, if you have a phone and you want to make it look sexy and it sits in your pocket, that's great. But a machine that's building a house, I mean, whoever saw a crane with beautiful cladded aluminum panels to make it super pretty and sexy, right? Yeah. It just doesn't happen because, every builder knows.
Get it going quickly,
that's
print
right.
quickly. The other thing is, the only ones out there as well, where when we're done with a print, we put wheels on all 4 corners, we push it to the next. If you want to walk it with a pendant, with electric wheels, like you would a scissor lift, you can do that as well. Those are options. We got about 6 pages of options on our printers, but I don't want to take something that took me 2 or 3 days to assemble apart to move it to print another section. I don't want to move it over to print the next house. You lift up a corner. If it's lightweight enough, it was built right, you lift up a corner, you put wheels, you put 4 pins on your wheels, you push it, you take the wheels off, and you go again.
Amazing.
It's about speed.
So you built this with builders in mind because you have some of that background. So you are connecting to that, like, hey, this makes sense. This is how I want it. Just like Einstein said, simplicity is pure genius. It takes a lot of effort to simplify everything, to make it as simple as possible, but not simpler, and yet make it functional and make it work. This is a revolution that is happening. The wave is building up. It's swelling. This is going to impact the whole world here in the States and across the world because of affordable living, because of the possibilities right now of being able to automate some of this stuff, right, and lower down the costs. And we talked about that briefly as well, where in the past people thought, oh, automation is just too expensive to implement in my business. Everybody probably had those business models in there or those numbers in their brains where like, oh yeah, only big car factories can afford these multi-$100,000 or $1 million robotic arms, and it's an investment for them. Nowadays, things are getting cheaper and cheaper. Why is that?
More people are doing it. Probably that. You just have a lot more people. It didn't, in the olden days, in the 40s, GMC was using automation and robotic arms. That was a long time ago.
Right.
Since then, we've come a long ways. I mean, you don't type out C code and have 4 engineers keeping this thing running and setting it up. You just drag the arm where you want it, and you record each one of those processes like you would an Excel spreadsheet macro. But it's bringing the cost down. The mystery of it all, how to use a motion controller and stepper drives and steppers to control motion is easier understood now than it was a long time ago.
It seems to me that there is a huge, do-it-yourself or makers community that contributes to this, right? That's why sensors are getting cheaper. These stepper motors are getting cheaper. All of that is getting cheaper because the market is there. So companies are building and making these products at a lower and lower cost, so that the entry to the market is significantly lower as well. Computers, capable of controlling this. You can buy a Raspberry Pi for $35. It's a full-fledged Linux-based operating system computer that you can do, amazing things, right? So those are the things that are kind of lowering the barrier into entry of this business. So how do you navigate as a company, as Mudbots, so one of the models for your business is to franchise this. Why did you choose the franchise model?
Because we want to be everywhere. And I don't just want to be in America. We want to be a well-known name. In order to do that, you have to put your support and your service where the printers are. It's customer service is that's one of the deal breakers. Customer service. And I think if you get on, anybody who's been following us a while, you get online and you try and look up any of these others that are claiming to have printers. They're showing lots of videos and stuff, but they won't answer the phone. You go weeks, if at all, whether or not they'll answer an email. And this is when you got $250,000 to $500,000 in your pocket. So can you imagine what it's going to be like trying to speak to a German engineer or whatever else halfway around the world, or a Chinese engineer, getting up at 2:00 in the morning to do this? We employ visioneering in all of our...
Yes, we're going to talk about that. I saw the video on your website, and I'm going to describe it from my perspective, and I'll let you kind of... I was super excited when you showed that. So goggles, which allow sort of telepresence for your engineers, right?
Yep.
And when I saw that, I was just so excited because this goes just in line with what you just said, which is how do I make this business so that when I, as a builder, buy this product, buy this printer from you, and I'm on a site, I'm printing a house. Everything has to go well. Everything has to work. Every time that stuff breaks and I need to send things, that just kills the deal. It racks up the cost and everything. With visioneering, with this telepresence, being able to put these glasses on where your engineer from multiple, all over the place, they can connect, they can see what your customer has an issue with, and they can troubleshoot it and be there without like getting on a plane, flying out thousands of miles, and then it's a delayed cost and everything. So how did you?
No one can afford
I've
that.
never seen anybody else do that.
With visioneering goggles, and we use it with USA Botics because we're automating around the world. When there's a problem, I mean, our stuff's in places where if anything's going wrong, we're holding up $10,000 to $100,000 per, shoot.
Right.
Big numbers, just ridiculous. Right. You don't even want to think about it. So, with visioneering, it allows our engineers to be in 10 countries in 1 hour. I don't need you to be smart. In fact, it's better if you're not. I don't want you second guessing my engineers. We built it. Let us help you get it going as quickly as possible. So with the goggles, I can hear everything that you hear and see everything you see. All I need is your hands. That's it. So we can tell you to open the cabinet and let's check this green wire, not that one, the one right above it. There you go. And very quickly, in my customer base, I mean, I sell to 3M, I sell to Ralph Lauren, Tesla. These aren't real patient companies.
Right.
I mean, when they buy from you, you should see the agreement. But basically, when they are having a problem, if you can't fix it immediately and right now, and I mean, get somebody on the phone, and I mean, any time of the day, that you just won't be doing work for them anymore because it's a product that is reliable and will do what it's supposed to do. That's part of the challenge. The other challenge is if there's any additional support or anything that's needed, you've got to be able to get somebody on the phone. And I tell you right now, seriously, I challenge you, go try and call anyone. You can't get a hold of them.
I got to tell you, when I so initially what so I was always into like 3D printing and I see the potential, just like everybody else sees the potential. When I saw, and I believe it was Icon based out of Texas, that company, when they were kind of showcasing their demo product, and I said like, oh my gosh, it is finally happening. We're going to be printing 3D printing, and so I did reach out to them as well. And like you said, it was very difficult to get a hold of anyone. I mean, in a way, I understand that everybody. This is exploding right now. This thing is really growing so fast. So I can understand that they're busy when nobody calls them and and like want to get a hold of them. But at the same time, I've learned from someone over here in Utah that Midvale based company is doing 3D robotics printing with concrete. I need to talk to you, and that's how I got in touch with you. So I'm super excited that you're here because we can talk about this. Yeah, because this is, I mean, people will be watching this video. I mean, it's 2020. People will be watching this video in the future when this is going to be 3D printing of housing is going to be like a norm, a new norm, right? And then people are like, wow, this is the inception. James Lyman was working on this. He made it affordable. He made this, he made it such that companies could use it. It's not just a gadget. It's not just like something that, DIY person at home with hobby is going to kind of tinker with. I mean, when you're talking about seriously building buildings by a builder, this thing has to be reliable. It has to be supportable. So the things that you talked about, those deal breakers, those are key things that you focus on. So I'm super happy that you're addressing that, because who's going to buy this thing, which is going to be a novelty, when they can't put this to work and really turn this into a business? Right.
Well, the other thing we did by going with a simplistic design that made sense in the field, could easily be serviced, we kept costs down. I mean, we're a third the cost of anyone. And there are people in the industry that aren't happy with us about that because they feel like we're destroying the blue sky. It's like regular 3D printers. The first 3D printers that came out, $10,000, $20,000. Yeah. Shoot, now you can buy them for $150.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the price will come down, but that's what I meant earlier when I'm like, I just decided, are we just completely going after this from a financial point of view, or do we really want to make a difference around the world? And it has to be affordable. Why should, countries that are challenged financially, why should they not?
Mm-hmm.
They have the same needs. They have greater needs. But traditionally, they're the last ones to ever get any kind of technology, and they need it.
So let's talk about that. What motivated you to, beyond the fact that you already had experience with robotics and automation, so and building, so those were kind of just natural things that kind of fused together into birthing Mudbots.
Mm-hmm.
But what else motivated you? We talked about briefly, obviously, cost and business opportunity. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your background and what motivates you to push on in this direction to provide this affordable housing. What you travel around the world and you saw how people can't afford living, and so that is what in part motivates you to do this, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I've been asked this question so many different times, and I have to think about it. But I've had a lot of time to reflect on it. But I served. I went and did a mission in Africa for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. My son did a mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil. My daughter in Ghana. We take the twins down to Mexico, and we work in orphanages all the time and stuff. And I don't get to take credit for any of this. I mean, it really, as I've thought about it, when I was a little kid, I had nothing. You got other kids running around in Nike tennis shoes and stuff like that, and all my clothes were hand-me-downs. They came from Goodwill stores, or my mom and I, she'd give me $1 and we'd run around and do garage sales and stuff on the weekends and stuff. But my single mom raised us. When she did remarry, I remember that we'd come home and there'd be strangers in our house all the time. And it would drive my father crazy because it was dangerous. But we lived way outside in Oregon, outside of town, and she'd see people on the side of the road that needed help or whatever else. So she would bring them home. She'd feed them. She'd give them our coats, our sleeping bags. When she had the money, she'd help them with a bus ticket or something. And it's the way she raised us as children. And okay, we're gonna stop.
No, look, this is what's happening over here. This is a real show. When we talk about what motivates us, and this is your story, James. Like I can see how emotional you are about this, and you're connecting with. Now you're kind of connecting back in with what is really driving you. I mean, we talked about business opportunity on one end and how revolutionary this is and what can happen, but the underpinning of your DNA is what you just shared with me over here, which is amazing. You have passion. You want to help people. You grew up with some level of scarcity, and so now you want to help other people, right? That's what's happening, and this is that's why this is your passion project, right? That's it.
Life has a way of teaching you things, but
right.
I've had the airplanes, I've had the Porsches and the houseboats and all the stuff, and in the end, it's just And so when you start to turn 45 and 50 and looking at your life and wondering, did I really did it make a difference in anybody's life other than my family and me?
Right.
What's the story going to be?
What's your legacy?
What will my grandchildren and their children remember me as? The self-indulged guy that just took every damn dime he could and
right.
And walked around, look at me, look how important I am, look at my cars, look at my houses. Or was Grandpa a guy that actually, went around the world and made a difference? And
right.
That's, like I say, you ask me on different days, and it'll be a different answer. But that's the overwhelming motivator for me
right.
is I've seen the way people live in other parts of the world, and it's unfathomable. I have an office in the Philippines. The people that work for me there, I've been to their house for dinner, and it's the most humbling thing you've ever experienced in your life to realize. I mean, I don't know. I have a nice office and they come to work every day and so forth, but to literally go and be with your people and see the way they live and how they're trying to survive and stuff, it's kind of disgusting. So
we have this huge artificial scarcity in which this disparity between the rich and the poor is just so vast, and it seems to be growing. And people see it around the world, and it is if you don't travel the world and you go to whenever we travel, whenever we go to places, and then you come back home and you see what you have, you appreciate it that much more, because people don't have that. Some people have to wake up in the morning and go 6 miles and walk to bring water to just live. And this is the 21st century. I mean, we have all this technology, we have all this science, we have all this wealth around the world. It's a shame that people around the world don't have a dwelling, don't have a place don't have a roof around the world. So thank you for sharing this, because this is the audience who's watching this is connecting now with what is driving James Lyman. Why are you doing this as well? And I think it's important for people to know that you have this kind of threaded into your DNA, why you're motivated to do this, not just to be a big conglomerate company that kind of makes this, but also the background behind it. Why are you doing this? And then why are you going to be continuing to develop this? So let's talk about that. What is in the future of your company? What is going to make Mudbots continue to be number one in this space, continue to push? What is your vision? How do you see yourself in a year?
Well, it's going to be, there will be a saturation point with this. So the only real future for anybody in this marketplace is to continually be innovating. Okay. We're working with two of the largest composite companies in America right now. And the primary purpose is to be able to print trusses on site with composite. I hate to talk about this stuff because some people are like, bull crap, but there'll be a day when we print the wall. I'm going to print the PVC too. I'll print your plumbing. I'm going to print your conduit. These printers will do. I went to the World Expo in Shanghai, and I remember walking through it some time back, and they showed literally as you walk from room to room, the paint was inlaid with a material that was a monitor. It was a screen. And as I walked from room to room, I didn't have monitors. It was the wall itself that just followed me. And I could turn it off or turn it on. I saw a refrigerator that had a big old screen in it because they say this is the center of the family. Everybody comes to the refrigerator. So this is the dates for the school play, and we're out of bacon and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought some of it seemed pretty far-fetched. All of it exists today. So we got to continually be innovating, and we will be. We don't do flat work right now, but we're working. Within 6 months, not only will we form up your slab, but we will backfill it and screed it, and we'll put a power trowel on our Z-axis, and it will finish it. And if we're doing that, we might as well be able to stamp it. Why can't I put a roller or something on that Z-axis and put any kind of amazing design into it? So our real-time finishing system, it isn't like anything that anybody's showing, at least. I mean, you got these little trowels that they're pulling as they're trying to print the wall, but it's still not perfect. It still doesn't look right, and you still can't do this kind of stuff. So that became dead end for us, trying to pull a trowel. We'd been there, done that a long time ago. So then we thought, well, let's take two little stainless steel rods and spin them along the side and mist them with water and do our real-time finishing that way, because when you can trowel this way, but when you get to a corner, one trowel has to come out, rotate, and go. And trowels work at 20 degrees. So this one scrapes on the inside. It's ridiculous. So
And for those uninitiated, trowel is those who are not as sometimes we forget, like I don't know if people know what I'm talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but trowel is basically like smoothing of that wall, right?
Yeah.
When you print. So right now, when these 3D printers they lay the material, they lay concrete, and then so that kind of forms this pattern on the outside as the material kind of sets and all that, and the trowel basically kind of smooths so people can have a smooth wall.
Yeah, everyone's working on a real-time finishing system where you don't have to have more labor to trowel.
More labor to go, yeah.
But right now, like with our printer, until the patents are done on our system for the RTF, you just follow the printer. You trowel right behind it, and when you're done, it's stucco on the outside. Any stucco you're used to, you can do with this.
Right.
And on the inside, your absolute smooth wall. And that's how the majority of the world does it. I mean, most countries, they don't stick frame anything with 2x4s and metal studs and then put drywall on it. Most of the rest of the world does not do that. They build with red brick and block, and then they send some guys in there with trowels and they add more mud to it and make it look pretty. And you walk into any government building around the world, I'm going to tell you, it looks like drywall. It looks perfectly smooth, but it's not. It's mason.
Right. So someone literally just had to manually finish it to make that. It's so labor.
Yeah, I know, but it is actually so. It's labor intensive the way it's normally done because you got to lath, you got to put a brown coat, a scratch coat.
Right.
This isn't. This is a single process, no additive. So you're literally just finishing the wall that was printed. You're not adding more mud on top of it.
Right.
It's phenomenal to watch. And everybody that comes and plays with our printers, when they get on there with a sponge trowel and work a section, every single time it's like, did you see that? I mean, I've never touched a trowel in my life. And they realize, oh my gosh, this is easy.
Yeah. So. And there are some videos on your website, mudbots.com, where you show behind the scenes sort of like how things are. I really like the one where you were like, hey, you need an outlet over here? Boom, I got a die. Boom, just cut out a little piece of the wall, and you can do everything right in the wiring and what have you. So amazing. That's amazing.
Talking about that one though, just to show the evolution, we found that we could just take looks like a cookie cutter,
right?
And you just tap it with a hammer about 20 minutes after print, and you can cut out perfect boxes for plumbing, electrical, anything you want. Then we had one of our contractors call us and say, hey James, take a vibrator and touch the side of that thing and it goes through like butter, because ideally you don't want to be pounding down here on a wall that's not solid up top yet,
right?
But you take this little vibrator and we made attachments for it now. And again, it's just making it more efficient, making it quicker. And every single day is like Christmas. I mean, the ideas that people give us and the uses and the way they want to use it, it's quite fun.
So let's talk about how are you, as a business, how are you going to, like one of the things that you mentioned is just continuous development, continually innovating, continually pushing forward, building a company that provides support. Because my question, what I'm driving with this is like, how are you going to protect all of this stuff that are either you're developing or just the stuff that everybody else will be doing? Because obviously 3D printers have been around. So this is like not a new, there's a lot of innovation that you've already made, which is how do we make this so you can quickly erect the structure, the printer, build it, bring it, take it down, move it, all that stuff. But how are you going to protect yourself from some other country just copying your stuff?
Every day I could sell 10 of these to India. I could sell 5 a day to China. These are countries I'm just not going to sell to, primarily because I have no intellectual protection. People are looking for a way to cheat themselves to our 3 years of R&D. You have two groups. You have the group that's like, I'm looking at the printer, I can do the math on it, I could build one of those, that's no problem. You have to ask yourself a question then, what have some of these very large companies around the world, what have we been doing for 3 years?
Right.
It certainly wasn't build a damn printer.
Right.
Okay. It's the mix formulas, it's additives, it's developing software that will adjust to weather and the temperature and humidity and real time. Because the last thing you want to do is go build yourself a printer and then be in front of the whole public and you're trying to build yourself a house and you've got several $1,000s invested already today and have that fall down in front of everybody.
Right.
I mean, people are praying for that to happen. And as we look at most of the company, I mean, just pay attention to the videos. It's easy to get fascinated and with what you're seeing and so forth, but you'll see walls are light gray, darker gray, darker gray, darker gray, and then completely wet because they're printing those walls in sections. There's a reason they print in sections, because if they try and print 8 foot from bottom to top, it's going to fall over. That tells us they don't have the math figured out right. They don't have the mixes and the different types of mixes, and so when you look at our walls on our website, every single pass is consistent. It looks the same. It's not, broken here and smooth here, because what that tells me is they don't have their water distribution. So we have a pre-mixer that takes a dry mix and it adds water just before it goes into the pump. But those two things have to work in unison. I can't be making mud faster than what my pump is pumping it. And there's a lot of math to all of that.
Right.
And ideally, when I'm printing, I can't print pass 1, pass 2, pass 3. I can't print faster than when I'm curing below to support the weight and the height of what's above it. And so that's what these big companies in Germany and everywhere, and that's what they've been doing for 2 to 3 years. And we've done that. We don't want to lose that technology. We can tell because our whole system is backend system. It tracks everybody and how they registered and so forth, IPs. I can tell you about 30% of the calls we get are other companies trying to figure out how to do what we do.
Right.
So we vet right now. We just do everything we can to vet our people. And I get that students and all these different people are super curious and they want to call, but every conversation we have on the phone is over an hour long, an hour to 2 hours. And we just can't talk to everybody. Right now, we've been educating the whole world. We've gotten a little more selfish about, unless you're a contractor, unless you have a structural engineer that you want to bring with you, and unless you have had a business that's at least 3 years old, I can teach you about concrete printing. I can't teach you how to run a company. I can teach you concrete printing. I can't teach you about the building department and that process and working with engineers and all this. I can't teach that stuff. And while this might be the most fascinating thing you've seen and you just want more information, we can't.
Right.
And so we've just gotten to the point now where unless you're ready to take the technology and go, because you could come and I can talk to you and say, it costs you 0.5 cent a cubic inch to print. Wow. Is that good? You can't make sense of any of the numbers. When I say we can print a wall for $9 to $11 a running foot, they're like, so if you don't bring a contractor, somebody that understands construction and all the numbers, we require people to literally give us submittals before they can come out and spend time with us.
Right,
because you got to prove to me that you're going to be able to make sense of what I'm going to share with you.
Correct.
And if you want a whole day of my time in Utah and being able to play with the printers and do all these kind of things, I need to know that you're somebody that can move forward with it.
Right. It makes sense. Otherwise, people would just come in, be fascinated, not really understand.
Oh, they just eat up days and days.
Because it is,
tons of emails and everything else.
Let's be honest. It is mesmerizing watching those printers print.
There's no question.
You can just sit and just watch this thing. It is.
Even still. The hardest thing for me is the countries that need the technology the most have the weakest intellectual protection laws.
Right.
And while I want to be there and I want to make a difference,
you got to protect your business.
So we're still trying to figure out ways, and we're looking at some new ways where we can participate with countries like India or even China or whatever else. But at the end of the day, being everywhere, being a household name, having support locally, and then continuing to push technology here in America. I'm using engineers from BYU, University of Utah, the U, and it's great working. These kids are doing stuff that, for the most part, isn't being done.
Right.
So
that's amazing.
That's a fun story to go. I don't know if their parents even believe them. Guess what, Mom?
I'm going to 3D print a house.
I did this or figured this out today. We had one of our guys, his name is Kiefer. He said, hey, look at this new nozzle. Can we try and print with this new nozzle? And what are we going to get out of it, Kiefer? And he goes, let's just do it. It's our favorite nozzle now. It's just like the design that it gives on the wall.
Right.
And so these guys aren't just coming to work. They come to work, they go home. These guys they're texting me YouTube videos and what about this or this part or this technology or whatever else at midnight.
That's what you want. You want to have that.
It's exciting.
They're
excited.
People excited, motivated to do this. It is such an exciting technology. I mean, the world is literally going to be in 5 years like unrecognizable. I mean, I just hope, and this is going to be leading me to the next question, which is the world ready to go at the pace at which you and this technology is going? Because now you have to sort of either convince or demonstrate or just change the way structural engineers, the building departments think of this, right? Because everyone's like, oh, that's so cute. You can 3D print a shed, but like it's a whole different story when I'm going to put people in it, right?
Right.
So tell me a little bit more about your experience with that.
Well, in the beginning, it was, I don't do your structural engineering. I don't do your civil engineering. I sell a printer. When your structural engineer figures out what kind of a wall structure he wants, is it going to be 4 inches, 8 inches? Am I going to have mortar support in the middle? Am I going to run rebar in it? Am I not going to have rebar? Am I printing with a mix that's 500 psi or 50,000 psi? And to put that in a little bit of perspective, a cinder block is 2,100 psi. Typically, most of the time, we're printing at 3,000 to 5,000 psi. So I'm already much stronger than a block. The painful thing for me is to see somebody get a printer and they're still printing squares and, these square homes and everything else. Why do people do that? Because it's affordable. But we don't need to now. I can print a living room wall that looks like this for the exact same price. And I can do different things with
an arc.
Yeah, with an arc. I mean, typically you do an arc, the framer hates you, the drywall guy hates you. I mean, everybody is going to make you pay plumbing, everything, because everything comes in squares. So square blocks, square forms.
Right.
So
this opens up opportunities and possibilities in doing novel things, but at the same time, people who have this standard way of thinking how houses should be built have to get on board in order to...
Engineers have to get out of the box.
Yeah, they got to...
You're not going to take what you know and shove 3D concrete printing into it.
Right.
And it's going to be a hell of an opportunity for them because it's not like it can't be done and it's not being done everywhere. It's like, are you going to take 15 minutes concentrated thought and figure out how to make it work in your city? Because you have different codes than every other city. And that's real challenging for us too, is we can't just solve something in Utah and say, here we go. It changes city to city. You got places with terrible codes, places with easier codes. And that's why one company, you see them down in Texas. They don't even have contractors' licenses down there. But,
right.
And so what we need are, like I said, in the beginning, we sold the printer and said, you guys we don't do your house plan, okay? We sell the printer. What we guarantee is when your engineer figures out how to design the walls and everything else, our printer will print it, okay? But we've learned there's a lot easier way now. Instead of trying to drop some plans and walk in the front door of the housing department for permits and planning, say, hey, I'm going to print a 3D concrete home. You're just going to meet all kinds of
resistance.
Yeah. It's best that you approach it in each one of your states. Find the people that would benefit the most from concrete printing. And those are people that are in the housing authority, economic development, the Habitat for Humanity, mayor's office. Start there. Okay, because like I said, many of them have said, oh, we're going to do something about affordable housing. They never have been able to, but now there is something that can.
There's a real
so start there, let these guys see it, let them vet the technology, and all they got to do, I mean, our affordable house, or excuse me, Ed Blake, he's Habitat for Humanity, president down here. He's brought engineers and architects and the city and mayors. He's brought all these people through our front door and he is excited because this is a technology that he knows will work and it will help him do his job.
Right.
So if you start at the top, from the people that will benefit the most,
get that support,
and let them walk into the front door of the building department and say, hey guys, here's the deal. We are going to do this. And we're going to do it right now because every time rent goes up $100 a month, we have 10 to 20,000 people displaced that lose homes. Okay, we need affordable housing. It's epidemic. We're going to fix it. Don't get in my way.
Yeah, figure it out.
Figure it out. Okay, is if you get in my way, I'll replace you. This is bigger than you and your ego. Chest bumping, and well, how are you gonna do this? And how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna do a top plate? How are you gonna tie it into the dude?
Yeah.
Think about it. 5 seconds. There's 10 answers to every one of those questions. But so it's easy to sit on the sidelines and poke holes. But when they realize what they're impeding and what they're slowing down right now, it's there's 150,000 people in LA I just saw the other day that are homeless, living on the streets.
Yeah, it's growing.
3 people die every single night. I mean, at what point is somebody going to say, guys, let's do something?
It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing to think that we're in 21st century. We have all this high tech and people don't have affordable dwellings, affordable living. It's I don't know what other words to use other than despicable, but embarrassing. It's embarrassing because it's a problem that's solvable, especially now with all the automation and cost being driven down. In the past, you could have made an argument, oh, this is just too expensive. This is just, but now everything is way more affordable. So we need to build a support, and hopefully people who are listening to this and getting to know you and your company and getting on board will form a community, form a support network that will be pushing hard for us to figure things out. And if something is not yet figured out, let's put enough resources to figure it out so that this is the way of the future, so that a builder can buy these printers from you and start building affordable buildings. And
it's not really that big of a stretch, though. I mean, if I can print stronger than a cinder block, and there's already cinder block code on the books everywhere. If I did nothing more than just print walls that look like cinder block, with rebar in them, because I can print, we're one of the only ones that print actually around the rebar. But with rebar and then filling it solid, I got an R9 factor on it for insulation. That's easy to do. It's not necessary, though. I mean, I can print with mud that's 50,000 PSI. It's completely off most engineers' chart. I mean, they're familiar with stuff that has to do with residential, but unless you're doing post-tension work in high rises, you don't understand 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 PSI. They make mud that is stronger than steel, and they did that in the 50s. Okay, now there's an actual practical way to utilize that technology, and we don't need rebar. We can print hollow walls. The minute I put mortar support inside my wall, I've just screwed up all my electrical. Now I can't do a home run and just drop it down inside the wall. So now I got to come in through my top plate and keep daisy chaining around like this. And that's ridiculous when it's not necessary. But an engineer is going to want to do what's most familiar to him with the least amount of work, even though that's working against what the contractor may want. And the contractor wants to be able to lay electrical and plumbing without drilling every single stud or going down from the top. So it's the processes are easy. We go over a bunch of them because we have to. Because just the process has to be demonstrated and shown. And when people start to get it, but this isn't going to be something that takes a decade to catch on. This is a tool that if you don't have within a year or two,
you're going to be out of business.
I mean, we're talking about houses, but what about block walls? I mean, these developers that are putting in 400 homes or 100 homes and they got miles and miles of block wall. I can print block wall at a fraction the cost of anybody laying cinder block. It's going to be stronger. I'm going to have walls that do this and do this, zipper walls. They're going to have spiral pilasters every 12 feet instead of a stupid, ugly H block that somebody put some stucco on top of. I can do it for a fraction of the cost. Anybody could buy this printer, go to their 4 largest developers, and those block wall guys cannot compete with this. And so what's going to happen? Everybody who buys one is going to end up buying 3 or 4 because they're like, wow, this is amazing. Look at this. I just completely cornered a whole market. And then the guys that are having their backside handed to them because they can't do the work anymore, they're going to need them as well. And it will be, it's just like 3D printing.
Right.
Every once in a while you saw somebody, maybe a university had one, or now shoot, every 12-year-old has a 3D printer.
Correct. I suspect that if you're not going to get on board using this technology, you're just going to be left behind. It's going to be the same.
They'll get on board. They just don't, you can't convince somebody of what they don't know.
Right. So what are some of the other challenges that you're dealing with right now in terms of propagating this technology and just awareness of this and about your companies? What else? What are some of the challenges that, if removed, would I know you already are going at light speed because this is just growing so fast, but what are some of the other things that, if those stops would be pulled out, would accelerate?
The biggest challenge for me in what I do for the company every day is protecting us intellectually, not just giving this away. And so, weak intellectual laws in other countries, it's saddening. I could be in those countries so quickly. There's a thirst of people at university level, every level, calling and wanting the information and wanting to buy a machine and wanting to move forward. There's just not an instrument that allows me to sell one to them in a way that would protect us. So, like I said, we're working on some new stuff right now that may change that, because at some point you're fighting the inevitable. Once all of the work and everything we've done gets out there, so the only way we can protect ourselves is to have support, affordable product, the best type of product, a product that doesn't be moved to print, a product that we can give support to, a product that doesn't require proprietary mixes. Those are all the deal breakers we were talking about before. But we have to keep innovating. We have to keep coming up with new ideas. And some of those are contractual, different types of vehicles contractually that allow us to get these printers. And then the last thing on our deal breaker list is, as a contractor, if you're going to buy a printer, you're going to take it to the building department. You're going to get engineering that meets your codes in your state. You're going to go through all these processes. But if you've done all that work, why shouldn't you be able to benefit from the sale of these printers? Because, the news came out there, the news everywhere. You buy a printer, you're going to get $250,000 of free marketing because they want to write this story. And they'll write 10 different types of stories. And if you're the first, you get all this. If you're second and third, you don't get crap. Okay? Overnight, everyone will know your name. They'll know you're the one that brought this to your state. You're the ones that made this possible, and you're the ones to buy it from. So if we offer, because of that, the franchise or international partner programs that allow those that are trusting in our technology and what we're doing to benefit financially. And when you recognize that, how many block wall guys are there in any city? There's a number. And when one buys one, he's going to buy three. And when he buys even one, these other 24, they have to buy one, or they just can't do the work no more. And on a franchise in America, you're getting 30% of the sale of every one of these printers. So if you're talking about a $100,000 printer, you made $30,000.
Right.
Okay. If it's a $250,000 printer or a $500,000 printer, you made a lot more. And this isn't where you're going to just sell a couple. You're going to sell tons. So.
Right. This just the growth in this space, when you make things affordable, just the numbers of printers that will be needed in order to sustain the demand is going to be massive. I think your attitude is right towards being simply the best on the market in terms of the support and continuous innovation and pushing forward. I think that's what's going to protect you more than anything else, because someone's going to buy that printer, they'll take it apart, reverse engineer whatever they can, they'll figure things out, and maybe that is not going to be like what's going to really protect you. What's going to protect you is that everybody will want to use Modbot's printer because it's simply the best, and they will be making money. Their companies will be making money, and I think that's what's going to keep you ahead of it.
We have those in other countries or whatever else that are like, hey, we got our automation background as well, James. So we would like to go with you, but we don't want to pay $150,000 for a printer or $500,000 for a printer. And so the question we always pose is, yeah, you can eventually figure this stuff out. But timing is right now. That window of opportunity is right now. You can hit the ground running in your country, your city, your state with a viable product that can be sold right now.
Right.
If you try and build your own printer,
too late to get
and
it
then
in.
You start playing with mud and you finally start to realize what the Germans and us took 2.5 years trying to figure out, where's the market going to be? You missed that opportunity. Yeah, you'll be able to get in the tail end and you'll sell a few, but you can go right now. All the support, all the technology, the brand. We're the only ones in the world right now that are selling printers. The Germans got their thing going, and even the guys out in Texas, they're a different type of model. They're more interested in, anyway. We're actually selling, and you can be too right now. So
where do you see? Let's talk about some predictions in the future. Where do you see this in a couple of years in terms of? Actually, no. Let me rephrase that. What are you getting excited about in the near future, in terms of like technology and where your company is going to go?
Well, we're very, very excited about our real-time finishing, which isn't mechanical. That's going to blow everybody's mind because nobody's seen anything like that. We're very excited about being able to do slabs. That's a huge deal for a lot of people. Being able to print the trusses. Now that will require a 2-part mixing system and a different pump, but so it just new innovations. And our franchisees love it too because they're like, I'm selling a printer, and then the flat work finishing part of it's ready. I got to sell that.
When you say flat work, what do you mean?
Slab, concrete slab right? That you put down before you build your walls.
So how is it? Explain to me, how is it better to use a 3D printer to do this versus like building a box and filling it with concrete? Isn't it faster?
Well, first thing is I don't have to have a crew of guys show up and put up forms. We print the forms, and then for backfilling, instead of a concrete truck trying to get it all back where it's supposed to be, and you got guys screeding it, trying to pull the mud and get it so that you can put screeds. You've seen people go back and forth. We're able to distribute it precisely. And since our printer knows where the form perimeters are, there isn't all this extra mud in this corner that has to be moved over to here and stuff like that. And then to put a screeding system on our Z-axis, it'll get it really, really close so that you can get on it with a power trowel. You've seen them people walking on big 6 blades that are turning like this here. And then, of course, stamping afterwards. So
what is stamping?
Every day we get challenged. We got a guy right now who wants us to build one that does a 40-foot wall. He does commercial buildings. He either does lift slab or block wall right now. He's like, I just want to print a 40-foot wall, and then I want to pump fill it. I'll put the rebar in it, do everything else. I just want to pump fill it. Okay, 40-foot wall. So every day we get challenged with new things. We were asked by a contractor that says, I don't want to pay to pump insulation afterwards. Can you create something on the head of your printer that will blow the insulation out when it's all done? Because it knows where the center of the wall is all the way around. We're like, sure, no, that's no problem. And we thought at first, we'll just blow it in from the top at 8 feet, but it kept getting clogged up and wasn't getting consistently all the way down, the density all the way up. So we play. We know what we know because we failed a lot of times.
Right.
Okay.
Rapid prototyping. Honestly,
we fail. I mean, if you know what WD-40 means, but, and so we discovered if we blow it every 12 inches, then it's consistent.
Right.
And it's more code, but we just keep adding new things.
Right. Continuous innovation, pushing forward, coming up with better things to just take this market to the next level. It's going
to go much quicker than anybody thinks.
What are your predictions?
There's a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Anybody thinking about concrete printing should really read that. I read it. I flew out to Arizona, university out there bought one from us. And I read it on the way, and it was just fascinating. I mean, if you think what Bill Gates and Steve Jobs did was fascinating, and you look at how long it took them to get there, we will do that in a tenth the time. Robotics and automation. I mean, that's the next. But they talk in this book specifically about concrete or 3D printing.
3D printing,
just the advancements that we're having all over the world with this, putting them on space shuttles and part stores, and
I mean, there's
printing
even
steel now, and
I mean, they even think about like when settling on building a base on the moon or Mars. Use a 3D printer, use local things over there, and then basically you just print these amazing structures that can withstand extreme conditions.
The NASA has a competition. I mean, they've invited us to participate multiple times, but We had to decline it because I wasn't interested in giving all of our technology to these other universities that are playing. And most of them are trying to print stuff with a 6-axis arm, which you can only print something so big. But habitats for Mars. Mm-hmm. What about our military bases? When we deploy and stuff, you send a printer out there with it, you hit print, and you print the barracks, you print the mess hall, the bathrooms, place for guys to sleep.
Right.
That the applications just go, they're just ridiculous, on and on and on. We print waterfalls, we print barbecues, we print 24-inch box tree planners that cost $2,000. They cost us $100.
Right.
Big old monument letters that would cost you, $1,000 just to form each one of these things. I print those for $40.
Right. That's
so
amazing.
Any font. Yeah, I mean,
any font.
You want the name of your university or your development out front of your block wall? Just. I mean, that's a $10,000-$20,000 a week company with our printer, and you don't ever have to worry about a permit or building a home. I mean, there's so many applications that don't even require, that it's not even close to home building. So,
what are you excited about in terms of what is not possible yet now, but you see that soon in the future?
Geopolymer.
Okay.
Geopolymer.
Talk about that. What is that?
Well. Google the word geopolymer. I mean, but Portland cement, making people mad here now, but Portland cement is the number 2 cause of CO2 pollution in the world. And, steel factories, textile, all these other factories, they got a smokestack pointed towards sky. They have to follow very stringent EPA rules. But cement manufacturers don't. And the premise, a little while ago was if we make them follow the same rules that everybody else does, then it's going to double or triple the cost of cement. And when that happens, it'll slow down housing. So that's the argument. Geopolymer, as soon as cement goes up about 40%, you can start using geopolymer instead of Portland cement. And geopolymer has a 500-year life, not a 50-year life. With geopolymers, it is where we have to go, because I'll be able to print. I can flash the cure time to seconds, not 20 minutes. Now I can keep adding hardeners, and my mixes will harden quicker, but it ruins other aspects. I mean, there's a give and take.
Right.
But geopolymer is going to it changes everything. I can print with beach sand. I can print with the dirt, comes right out of the ground. Mm-hmm. I don't need wash sand. We're experimenting with a lot of guys right now that are doing hempcretes. We got a company that built a 6,000 PSI hempcrete, and they're coming out to do some testing with us. I would say that the thing that excites me the most are these new compounds and mediums that we'll be able to print with to do stuff like the people printing with PVC or ABS and stuff like that are.
Right.
But it has to be affordable. So it's a combination. When we see Portland cement start to go through the roof because they got to play by the same rules as everyone else, that opens the door for geopolymer.
So thank you for mentioning
composite mixes.
Thank you for mentioning that about concrete, because that was actually one of the arguments that I've heard of someone when I was talking about 3D printing with concrete, and they said like, well, do you know how much CO2 they produce when they make concrete, when you make cement, mm-hmm. that is, and so I was like, okay, well, that's definitely a factor to consider. So what you just mentioned over here about the geopolymer is very exciting avenue, and like you said, mm-hmm. once price will go up, you better believe someone's going to figure out how to make an alternative.
The thing I would tell those people is, how do all these other trades get to work, and what is the number 1 cause of CO2? It's automobiles, right? We eliminate forming for your footings, forming for the slab. We eliminate framing, the layout for the framing, the stucco, the drywall. All of these crews of people that would drive back and forth to work, and you would be 2 weeks into a project that we do in 24 hours. Right. That's all gone.
Right.
So, but you're still right. That Portland cement is a problem, but their days are numbered.
So what do you say to people who are going to push back because they're going to say like, well, you're going to eliminate all these jobs, and what do these people do?
Oh, hell. That argument, my grandfather tells me about back Boulder Dam tells me about a time when the tractors started coming out, and men were so scared of these tractors because it could do the work of 50 men. That at nights they would pop the tires and they'd pull the wires off them and sabotage it any way they could because they're scared to death. Okay, as it turns out, guys still had jobs, men still had jobs. We just became a lot more efficient. They said the same thing when Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were doing what they were doing. I mean, before that, you had rooms with 100 people doing 10 key and typing Word documents and stuff with typewriters. And where'd all those people go?
Right.
They still have jobs.
They still have jobs.
They still have jobs. So we don't know. I mean, Bill Gates and Buffett and those, they got some weird ideas. Let's just tax all the robots and do this kind of stuff. But we have a way of figuring things out. So yeah. I don't think we're gonna get to a point where we don't all have jobs. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think that if anything, this is just my opinion, and I've had these conversations with different people. I think that the 40-hour work week, that's kind of like this, we want to make jobs for people so they get busy. Like, why have people work when they don't need to, when we can have automation and free people from doing that? Right. And productivity wise, everything's going to be at the same level or higher. And then yes, some of those people can be requalified and retrained to do service, the automation, the machines and everything. Obviously not everyone will be able to do that, but why not just have people work fewer hours and spend more time devoting themselves to hobbies and spending more time with their families and being less stressed? And anxiety is such a huge thing right now, where people are depressed and anxious socially, and give them more time. Have machines do more work. Why not?
Well, there's countries all over the place that are actually doing that right now, and it is a better and ultimately. Having bigger homes and more Ferraris and more airplanes and crap, that isn't going to make us happy anyway.
Exactly.
Okay, it's going to be the time we spend with our family and our kids. And that's, so many of the challenges that our youth are having right now, they just need a little more parent time. They need to go for a few more hikes and walks and stuff like that. Another Mercedes in the front yard isn't going to do it, but that will.
I think public discussion about this and reframing how people even think about our work week and just life in general is something that's beneficial. I strive to do that almost with every guest over here when we talk about various topics, right? So I'm talking to psychologists, I'm talking to book authors, I'm talking about experts who on stress, and it seems like a lot of things are getting interweaved right now, where people see this is a system. We live in a system of things that one thing influences something else. So sometimes you need to take a step back and look at everything from a different perspective and maybe say, what, it worked for 100 years, it worked for 200 years, but maybe now we should kind of rethink some of those things. And certainly technologies like 3D printing with concrete, which will be a massive revolution in terms of how we think about housing and what's affordable for people, and dealing with the social social support aspects of people living in the streets and all of that. I mean, it's
well, and it's not just that. I mean, the university in Arizona that came to us, they were our students are graduating and they can't afford to buy a home. They can't afford to stay here afterwards. And they've done a lot of tests on our studies on the millennials and stuff, and they're just they're not going to drink the Kool-Aid. They're not going to buy the $300 to $1 million home that mom and dad did. Right. They'd rather go to Burning Man and go hiking and stuff like that. Give me a small studio with a garage. Yeah. And some of the most successful business models I've seen using our printer right now are companies that recognize we need $100,000 to $150,000 homes for our millennials, because they're not going to buy these things. These grand, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Spend more time with our families, live smaller footprint, all of that. I mean, I'm a struggling minimalist. I'm a struggling minimalist.
I think we're Gen Xers. I think.
I want to be a minimalist as long as you don't touch the cars. That's it. That's the weakness.
I'm going to dub you the Elon Musk of the 3D concrete printing world. You have the fortitude and you have the vision to push in this direction and the gumption to do that. in the same way that Elon Musk, when he proposed, "Hey, I'm going to make electric cars," and I'm an ex-founder of PayPal, and someone would say, like, "You don't know anything about making a car."
Spaceships into outer space with parts from Radio Shack.
Right. and so it takes people like you who have that weaved into their DNA to push forward and doing these great things to take this to the next level. I'm going to just say something else over here, which I'm excited, and which brought me in part to you, into your company. When I was researching 3D printing, what I envision, and we talked about this briefly offline, which is I believe in that in the future there's going to be these villages, places where affordable living is going to happen closer to nature. We have these huge cities right now where people have to live in because there's work over there, but because everything gets more and more connected, I feel like there's going to be more villages. It's going to get more and more distributed, and that's going to be a huge opportunity for builders to build in these even like remote places, because once you have internet,
they're going to be self-sustaining, hydroponic. These are it's everything's about to change.
Yeah. I want to build a Da Vinci village. I want to build a place like Silicon Valley is, or Silicon Slope is over here, but in a beautiful place where we support local farmers, so people living in that community get healthy food, good quality food, live in affordable living, and can have time because they're not indentured to paying off their mortgages, and they have to scramble to pay their bills because they can now afford a house that they can live in comfortably in a healthy place, healthy environment, and can literally thrive. And those brain cycles that those people will suddenly have will benefit the whole planet, because now they can focus on other problems that we as humans can come up with and solve. So to me, this is just a stepping stone that's just in that direction, and that's why I'm so excited, because this is going to become real.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, Elon Musk has always been one of my business idols. What he did, the change and the difference he's made.
Against all odds.
Against all odds. Not just against all odds. Half the people were voting against him, hoping he was going to fail and so forth. So.
Right.
But he's made a huge difference.
So what else has to happen in order to for you to continue to succeed in this? Changing minds of people thinking about this. What else? That's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's all on its way. It's going to go so much quicker than I ever anticipated. And I could track it. Every single day we know how many different people come to the website, who's unique, what countries they're coming from, and it's going up like crazy. We have somebody register on our site almost every half hour, every single hour of the day, 24 hours a day.
I'm so happy that I'm in Utah over here. I can witness this, and I'd love to visit your shop one day. We'll just bring out the crew and do some footage for you to show some of the developments, and maybe have you talk about it again. We'd love that. It's super helpful for us too. We have a tendency, because we've been doing this now for 3 years, we take too much for granted. But based on what you've seen, based on what we have on our website and everything else, you can come there and say, I don't understand this, James. Explain this to me. Or what are we going to do about this? How are we going to do about that? So we welcome you. Great. Thank you for inviting me. And is there anything else you want to say? Any shout outs or anything that you want to convey to people who will be seeing this video? You know what? We're nothing without our people. It's our team, our management, our engineers that have made all this possible for us. You can have great ideas, but it's their energy and their excitement and their innovation and ideas that have made it possible. So definitely without our people, we'd be no place. Outside of that, mayors, congressmen, senators, recognize what this is, recognize what it can do. Give us a call. We'll actually spend time with you. But your cities need this, and you need to help get the codes in place that allow it to be implemented much quicker than it is right now. That's the biggest stumbling block. How many homes have you printed? How many homes have you printed?
It's not whether or not homes can be printed. I mean, come down there, we'll print an 8-foot wall for you right there while you stand. So politically, yes, we need the people to recognize what this can do, and it's actually going to help you do your job. You'll be able to make a difference for your people and your constituents that just wasn't possible before. So that would be it. Just politically, get with your building codes, get with your engineers in your own cities, get the codes on the book so that people can run with this.
Run with this. What do you say to the builders who are getting into this or just finding out about this?
Oh hell, the builders get it. Every builder that comes down, everyone that shows up, they buy. When you let them play with it, print something, touch it, feel it, how are we going to do electrical, how are we going to do this, how are we going to run our top plate, there's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And so that'll be the fastest part of this that goes without any effort at all. It's a frenzy of people wanting this information right now, and most of them are builders, developers.
Hey, well, James, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for making this time. I know you're very busy. Your company is growing by leaps and bounds, and I've learned a tremendous amount from you. Thank you for sharing your personal story, your business story.
You're gonna edit that, right?
This is a real show. This is, ladies and gentlemen, you get James Lyman. The real deal. This is why he does what he does. And I'm just going to end this with whoever listens to this to kind of connect, support this, because this is a huge wave. This is a new revolution. You have a chance to be part of it or support it in whatever way, because this is going to be able to change our society for the better. It's going to end every single time you see a homeless person on the street, and hopefully you wonder, why is this person out on the street? This is one of the ways we can help people have a roof over their heads. So please continue your work, and I hope to have you again on the show and see how kind of progress you make in talking about this. And we'll do our best to talk in our circles so people can find out more about you and your company.
Look forward to it.
Thank you again. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
The world is full of interesting people with wisdom and extraordinary experiences to learn from. Join me on a journey to discover them, speak with them, and learn from them. I'm Adrian Sinclair, host of A Podcast with Interesting People at apodcast.com.